Every spy movie, every action thriller, every stealth video game shows you the same lie: a suppressor screws onto a handgun, and suddenly it whispers. One quiet puff, and the target drops without a sound. Hollywood lie. A suppressed 9mm handgun still produces approximately 130 decibels. That is as loud as a jackhammer operating 3 feet from your skull. To understand why suppressors reduce noise but can never achieve silence, we must tear apart the anatomy of this misunderstood device. The story begins not with espionage, but with noise complaints. In 1902, an American inventor named Hiram Percy Maxim, the son of the famous machine gun inventor, grew frustrated by the deafening noise of recreational discharge at shooting ranges near residential neighborhoods. Maxim studied the automobile muffler, a device that reduces engine exhaust noise by routing hot gases through a series of expansion chambers and perforated baffles. He realized the exact same principle of fluid dynamics could tame the sound of a firearm. In 1909, he patented the Maxim silencer, the world's first commercially available suppressor. Despite its name, it never made anything silent. Maxim himself described it as a device for sound moderation, not elimination. Over a century later, the physics have not changed. Only the engineering has improved. Inside every modern suppressor is a series of internal walls called baffles. These baffles divide the suppressor tube into multiple expansion chambers, typically 6 to 8 in a full-sized unit. When the firearm discharges, propellant gas follows the bullet into the suppressor at extreme velocity and pressure. As this gas hits the first baffle, it is forced to change direction, expand into the first chamber, and lose kinetic energy. The gas then squeezes through a small opening into the second chamber, where it expands again and loses more energy. This process repeats through every baffle. Each chamber acts as a pressure reduction stage. By the time the gas finally exits the muzzle of the suppressor, its velocity and pressure have dropped dramatically. The most common designs include K-baffles, which use angular surfaces to create turbulence, and cone baffles, which redirect gas flow radially. The geometry varies, but the principle remains identical: force the gas to expand, slow down, and cool before it reaches the atmosphere. Now let us examine the raw physics. When a cartridge is discharged, propellant gas erupts from the muzzle at approximately 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit and 15,000 pounds per square inch. Without a suppressor, this superheated gas slams into the atmosphere instantaneously, creating a massive pressure wave that our ears perceive as a deafening blast, roughly 165 decibels. A suppressor forces this gas through a controlled expansion process. By the time it passes through 6 to 8 baffle chambers, the gas temperature drops to approximately 400 degrees, and the pressure falls from 15,000 to roughly 200 psi, an expansion ratio of 75 to 1. This reduces the sound signature by approximately 30 to 35 decibels. That may sound modest, but the decibel scale is logarithmic. A 30 decibel reduction represents roughly 1,000 times less acoustic energy reaching your eardrums. The result drops the report from 165 decibels, which causes instant permanent hearing damage, to approximately 130 decibels, just below the threshold of pain. Still dangerously loud, but survivable without ear protection for brief exposure. There is one phenomenon that even experienced shooters rarely understand: the first round pop. When a suppressor sits idle, the internal chambers fill with ambient air containing oxygen. When the first round is discharged, the propellant gas ignites this trapped oxygen, producing a noticeably louder report and a visible muzzle flash on that first shot. Subsequent shots are quieter because the chambers are now filled with inert combustion gases instead of oxygen. The suppressor body itself must survive extraordinary thermal stress. Modern units use aerospace-grade materials, titanium outer tubes for weight savings, and stellite or Inconel baffles that resist erosion at temperatures exceeding 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Even with these materials, a full auto-rated suppressor will glow cherry red after sustained cycling and has a finite service life measured in tens of thousands of rounds. Now let us dismantle Hollywood's biggest lie. In the movies, a suppressed firearm produces a gentle whisper, a soft puff barely audible across a room. In reality, 130 decibels will make every head turn within a city block. But the deception runs deeper. Even with a perfect suppressor, there is a second source of noise that no baffle system can ever eliminate, the supersonic crack. Standard 9mm ammunition propels the bullet at approximately 1,150 feet per second, above the speed of sound. This creates a miniature sonic boom, a sharp crack that travels independently of the muzzle blast and registers at approximately 140 decibels downrange. The only way to eliminate this crack is to use subsonic ammunition, loaded below 1,125 feet per second. Subsonic rounds remove the sonic signature but sacrifice velocity, range, and energy transfer. This is why the quietest suppressed systems in existence, firing subsonic ammunition through a high-quality suppressor, still produce approximately 115 to 120 decibels. That is the volume of a rock concert. Silent? Not even close. So if suppressors do not create silence, why do military and law enforcement units use them? The answer lies not in stealth, but in 3 practical engineering benefits. First, hearing protection. A 30 decibel reduction brings the sound below the threshold of immediate permanent hearing damage, allowing operators to communicate verbally during engagements without electronic ear protection. Second, recoil reduction. The suppressor traps and decelerates propellant gas before it exits the muzzle, absorbing a significant portion of rearward energy. This reduces felt recoil by approximately 30%, resulting in faster follow-up shots and tighter shot groups. Third, flash suppression. By containing the initial fireball of burning propellant gas within the baffle chambers, suppressors dramatically reduce visible muzzle flash, preserving the operator's night vision during low-light operations. A gun suppressor is not a silencer. It is an engineering marvel of controlled fluid dynamics. Hiram Percy Maxim borrowed the car muffler's principle over a century ago, and the physics remain unchanged. Force superheated gas through a series of expansion chambers, decelerate it, cool it, and release it gently into the atmosphere. It reduces 165 decibels to 130. It tames recoil, preserves hearing, and eliminates muzzle flash. But it will never, ever, make a gunshot silent. Hollywood sold you a myth. The engineering tells a far more fascinating story. What piece of military technology should we debunk next? Drop your suggestions in the comments, subscribe to Arsenal Anatomy, and we will see you in the next breakdown.